Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling maybe the most incredible and definitely the most mysterious organ we know of, the human brain. I mean, this 3-pound lump of tissue, it runs everything you do, your heartbeat, sure, but also your deepest thoughts, feelings, your whole sense of who you are. It's just staggering when you stop and think about it. So our mission today is really to unpack that question. How does the human brain actually work? We'll look at the structure, the mechanisms inside, some surprising abilities, and definitely touch on the latest science, the breakthroughs changing everything. We got a whole pile of sources here, core science, new research, even what people are saying online. We're going to boil it all down, give you the key takeaways, kind of a shortcut to getting really informed about this amazing thing inside your head. Let's jump in.
It's a fantastic topic.
Yeah.
Because it really is the organ that defines us, isn't it? And yet, so much is still unknown territory. Like one source puts it so well, it's a 3-pound organ with over 86 billion neurons, controlling everything from your heartbeat to your deepest thoughts, emotions, and consciousness. Just that one sentence. Wow. It captures the sheer scale we're talking about.
86 billion neurons. It's hard to even picture that. So, okay, to start making sense of that complexity, where do we begin? The basic layout.
Yeah, exactly. The fundamental blueprint. We usually start with the major regions. The biggest part, the one you probably picture, is the cerebrum. That's the large, wrinkly part split into the left and right hemispheres. And it's the hub for, higher functions. Thinking, memory, moving when you decide to move, making choices.
Right. So when you're figuring out a puzzle or, I don't know, deciding what to eat, that's the cerebrum at work.
That's it. Then, tucked underneath and towards the back is the cerebellum. Smaller, but crucial. Its main job is balance, coordination, posture. Think about walking or riding a bike or even just standing without falling over. That's your cerebellum managing all that smoothly.
Okay. Cerebrum for thinking, cerebellum for moving smoothly. What else?
Then there's the brainstem. This connects the main brain to your spinal cord. It's absolutely vital. It handles all the essential involuntary stuff, breathing, your heartbeat, digestion, things you never consciously control. Life support, basically.
Right. You definitely don't want to have to think about remembering to breathe.
Exactly. And then there's a collection of structures, not just one part, called the limbic system. This includes areas you might have heard of, like the hippocampus and the amygdala. This whole system is deeply involved in emotions, learning, memory formation, and reward. Feeling happy, scared, motivated. That's the limbic system.
It's amazing how these different bits all work together so seamlessly. You don't feel the gears grinding, you just experience things.
That's the magic of it. But how does it manage all that? Once we know the parts, we need to look at the wiring, the microscopic level. We mentioned those 86 billion neurons, nerve cells, the building blocks. But the truly mind-boggling part is the connections. Each single neuron can connect with up to, wait for it, 10,000 other neurons.
10,000, each one. That network size is almost impossible to comprehend.
It really is. And these connections happen across tiny gaps called synapses. Communication across these gaps is this incredible mix of electricity and chemistry.
Okay, so not just wires, but chemicals too, like dopamine and serotonin, those ones?
Exactly those, neurotransmitters. So a signal starts in one neuron, travels down its axon as an electrical pulse.
Right.
It reaches the end, the synapse, that gap. This electrical pulse triggers the release of these chemical neurotransmitters. And those chemicals float across the tiny gap and bind to the next neuron, passing the message along, like a relay race.
Wow. An electrical signal becomes a chemical one, then back to electrical in the next cell. And this happens billions of times a second.
Constantly. At lightning speed, that incredibly fast, precise dance is what underlies literally everything your brain does. Thoughts, feelings, actions, everything.
It's like a biological supercomputer, but way more complex. So, okay, we have the structure, we have the wiring. What about the functions? What does all this machinery actually do?
Well, let's talk cognitive functions first. Memory is a great example. It's not just one thing. Your short-term memory, like remembering a phone number just long enough to dial it, that seems to heavily involve the hippocampus, part of that limbic system.
Okay, holding things temporarily.
Right. But long-term memory, remembering your 10th birthday, or facts you learned years ago, that information gets stored more broadly, mostly in the cortex, the outer layer of the cerebrum. Different systems for different timescales.
That makes sense. And language, that feels incredibly complex.
It is. And it has specialized areas too. You've got Broca's area, generally linked to actually producing speech, forming the words. And then Wernicke's area, which is more about understanding language, making sense of what you hear or read.
Ah, so damaged one might affect speaking, but not understanding, or vice versa.
Precisely. It shows how specialized parts of the brain can be.
Hmm.
And then for just thinking, planning, focusing your attention, logic, that's heavily reliant on the prefrontal cortex, right at the front of your brain, kind of the CEO office.
The executive suite, got it. What about feelings, emotions?
Big role for the limbic system again, especially the amygdala that's really key for processing fear, anger, and tagging memories with emotional significance.
So remembering scary things really well, that's the amygdala.
Yeah, it plays a big part in that. But the whole limbic system handles the spectrum: reward, happiness, sadness. It's the emotional core. Even sleep isn't just switching off. It's controlled. The hypothalamus and the pineal gland manage your sleep cycles, melatonin release. And dreaming, which mostly happens in REM sleep, seems connected to learning, sorting memories, maybe even creativity. The brain's still busy while you sleep.
Okay, so memory, language, emotion, sleep. But what about the really big one? Consciousness. Our sense of self, free will.
Yes, the ultimate questions. Our sources mention something called the default mode network, the DMN.
Default mode, so what it does when it's idle.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Paradoxically, it's most active when you're not focused on an external task. When your mind wanders, you daydream, think about yourself, the past, the future.
Huh. So even when I'm just spacing out, my brain is doing something specific.
Exactly. It seems heavily involved in self-awareness, introspection, maybe constructing our ongoing sense of self. It's your brain's background processing, if you like.
Wow. Okay.
But even with things like the DMN, consciousness itself, it's still a profound mystery. Science can describe correlates of consciousness, brain activity that goes along with it, but can't fully explain what it is or how it arises from neurons firing. And that leads straight into the free will debate. Are your choices really yours, made consciously? Or are they determined by brain processes that happen before you're even aware of making a decision? It's a huge philosophical and scientific puzzle.
Yeah, that definitely messes with your head a bit. This idea that maybe you decided after your brain already acted.
It's a deep question. But what's also amazing is that the brain isn't fixed. It's not static hardware. It changes.
Ah, you mean neuroplasticity. I've heard that term.
Exactly. Neuroplasticity.
Yeah.
It's the brain's incredible ability to reorganize itself, to rewire its connections throughout your entire life.
So it's not just about development when you're young.
Not at all. It happens constantly. Think about stroke recovery. If one area is damaged, sometimes other brain areas can learn to take over those lost functions. That's plasticity.
Okay, that's amazing.
Or just learning any new skill, playing guitar, learning a language. Your brain is physically forming and strengthening new neural pathways as you practice. You are literally rewiring your brain.
So when someone says practice makes perfect, it's actually building connections.
Precisely. But it works the other way too. Repeated negative thought patterns or trauma can also physically change brain function, creating pathways that might be unhelpful. Habits, good or bad, are wired in.
Like that comment we saw from Reddit, someone saying meditation changed how their brain reacts to stress. That's plasticity in action.
Absolutely. It shows you have this capacity for change, for growth, for learning, for recovery. It's incredibly hopeful, really. It means your experiences, your actions, your thoughts, they all physically shape your brain.
That's powerful. And this dynamic nature, this ability to change, it must be inspiring a lot of new technology too.
Oh, definitely. Look at artificial intelligence. Many AI models, especially in deep learning, are directly inspired by the brain's structure layers of interconnected nodes, like neural networks.
So things like ChatGPT or image recognition AI, they're sort of mimicking how our brains might work.
In a simplified way, yes. The
Okay.
structure is analogous. As someone on Hacker News put it, that similarity is both fascinating and scary.
Yeah, I can see that. And then there are the direct connections, brain-computer interfaces, BCIs.
Right. This is moving from analogy to direct link. Companies like Neuralink, founded by Elon Musk, are working on implanting tiny electrodes into the brain.
To do what? Control things with thoughts.
Essentially, yes. The potential, especially for people with paralysis, is enormous. Imagine controlling a prosthetic limb, typing on a computer, or even speaking through a synthesizer, just by thinking.
We saw that article, didn't we, about the paralyzed man walking just by thinking?
Exactly. It was in the New York Times recently. It's moving from theory to reality. Early days, but happening.
Wow. What else is on the cutting edge?
While pushing boundaries even further, researchers at MIT show they could implant false memories in mice.
Wait, false memories, like in a movie?
Sort of. They could activate specific neurons to create a memory of something that didn't actually happen to the mouse. It raises huge ethical questions, obviously,
Yeah.
about memory and identity.
Yeah, no kidding. That's unsettling.
It is. And then there's the sheer mapping effort, the connectome mapping projects. The goal is to map every single neural connection in the human brain.
Like a complete wiring diagram for all 86 billion neurons and their trillions of connections.
That's the ambition. The Human Connectome Project is one major effort. It's an unbelievably massive undertaking, but imagine what we could learn from that complete map.
The scale of all this, AI, BCIs, memory manipulation, mapping the whole thing, it's both awe-inspiring and a little bit daunting.
It really is. And these aren't just lab curiosities. These advances and our growing understanding of the brain have very real-world applications.
Right, like in medicine.
Absolutely. Brain scans like fMRI and PET, which show brain activity, are standard diagnostic tools. Deep brain stimulation is used for Parkinson's and other conditions, and understanding brain changes is crucial for Alzheimer's research.
And psychology too, I assume.
Hugely. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, is partly based on understanding and changing thought patterns, which ties into plasticity, understanding addiction, impulse control. That's all rooted in brain science.
Okay. Education makes sense too, learning how people learn best.
Exactly. Tailoring teaching methods based on how memory and attention work. And technology, as we discussed, AI, VR, prosthetics, all drawing from neuroscience.
Even marketing. You mentioned neuromarketing.
Yeah, it's a field now. Using brain scanning or other tools to see how people really react to ads or products, often unconsciously. It bypasses what people say they prefer and looks at their brain's response.
Huh. So brain science is kind of everywhere in our lives now, even if we don't always realize it.
Pretty much. And public interest is huge. You see it online on forums like Reddit or Quora. People discussing their own experiences, like that meditation comment. Or someone on Quora saying, I read that habits are literally wired in the basal ganglia. Makes sense why they're hard to break. People are connecting the science to their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And the news keeps feeding that interest. We saw recent reports. AI learning faster than humans on some tasks using brain-like designs.
Right, from MIT Tech Review. And Nature Neuroscience reported a potential new brain region linked to instant memory recall. We're still discovering basic things.
It's wild. And some of the basic facts are just mind-blowing too. Shall we hit a few?
Let's do it.
Okay, fact 1. Your brain is only about 2% of your body weight, right? But it uses 20% of your body's energy and oxygen.
It's incredibly greedy. Needs a lot of fuel.
Fact 2. While most neurons don't regenerate if they die, some areas, like the hippocampus involved in memory, can grow new neurons throughout life, which is pretty cool.
It offers hope for recovery and learning linked back to plasticity.
Okay, storage capacity. This one's nuts. Estimated at 2.5 petabytes.
Which is a lot.
It's like 3 million hours of TV video, all that potential storage space packed in your skull.
Incredible. And one more.
Yeah, despite working in milliseconds, the brain actually lags behind reality slightly in really fast situations, like sports. It has to predict where a ball will be rather than just react because the processing takes time.
So it's constantly making predictions about the world to keep up. Amazing.
So wrapping things up after all this, it really drives home how unique the human brain is. It's so much more than just, an organ doing a job.
Absolutely. It's the source of your mind, your personality, your entire experience of reality. Your identity lives there.
And what makes it truly stand out, maybe, is its ability to learn, adapt, rewire itself.
And perhaps the most profound thing, its ability to try and understand itself. We're using our brains to study our brains. No other object in the universe that we know of does that.
That's a really good point.
And whether it's through AI trying to mimic it, or neuroscience mapping it, or psychology understanding it, we are genuinely just scratching the surface. There's so much more to discover about its power.
Which leaves us and you with that huge, lingering question to think about. What is consciousness, really? Is it just the incredibly complex result of all those billions of neurons firing away,
Right.
emergent property of the system? Or is there something more to it, something science hasn't quite grasped yet?